Project 571, genetically engineered vampire created to destroy evil.
What do you want?
We need your help to kill a vampire.
Malleus Maleficario. It was written by a witch. The first witch. Titania.
That was a little snippet from The Witch's Hammer, the first film I ever solo directed, and it's just been remastered and re-released on Amazon. So if you like witches and vampires, then please do check it out. Anyway, let's get on with this week's episode. Hi, Jim here, and you're listening to the Honest Filmmaker Podcast. This week, I'm chatting to filmmaker Beasy Jones. Hi, Beasy, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am well, thank you. So I'll set this up. Had a filmmaker on maybe like a month ago, Steve Love, self-titled Film Machine. We'll dig into that. But he suggested I chat to you, had a look at the IMDb, can see you've kind of done some cinematography, color grading, now directing. So set the scene for me. Tell me about your route into filmmaking.
I've always been a film lover. Like as a kid, I loved movies, and how I got started, I started doing music, right? Making beats, producing, and things like that. And I just felt like it really wasn't for me. I still love music to this day, but it's like I got back to my roots of loving film. So I started shooting music videos. And I took off, became one of the most popular people here in the city of Detroit, doing music videos. And a lot of people kept saying, like, I love your look. You make your music videos look like movies, or it's very cinematic. And then I just one day just said, you know what, I want to make a movie. So I just did my first independent film, which was titled Wait. And that was back in 2017. And I haven't looked back since.
Right. Wow. And so did you have any college, uni training on film, or is this all self-taught?
All self-taught.
All self-taught.
Well, I went to School of YouTube.
Yeah. School of YouTube. Yeah. Yeah. I've done a few of those. And it's funny because I can see your setup behind you. Obviously, you got everything there ready to edit. And it is amazing how much you can learn on your own, especially for people who maybe don't think uni or college is for them. All the information is out there. You can learn it.
Yes.
So, and am I right in saying, so that first film you did you direct that, or what was your role?
No, I was the director for I did everything. From sound to director photography to editing and directing. Yes, I did everything.
Editing, that sounds like fun, he says. I've done that myself. And having done all of those roles, what's kind of led you to directing? Was that always the end goal for you, do you think?
No, my end goal, honestly, was I just love the camera work. And but as I progressed, I read a lot too. So I read some books on directing and things of that nature. And I just love to be able to portray the story. Like I want to be the one in control of the story. So it's like, okay, I can capture the story through the lens, but let's help push it another way. So kind of like being a director of photography landed me in the director's seat.
Yeah. And so then how do you prevent yourself? Because I know a lot of DOPs, obviously they can get obsessed with gear. They can get obsessed with how something looks and not necessarily story. So how do you manage that balancing act?
I actually hire a DOP. So what we do is, pre-production, like we have our conversations. I tell them my likes, my dislikes, and it's not, and then I try to make it not about me all the time. Even though I'm the keeper of the story at this point, I still want to hear ideas from my crew. So me and the director of photography that I bring aboard on the project, they become my best friend. So it's like I kind of take that hat off and give it to them. That way we don't clash. You know what I mean? So it's just, that's how I do it. I just put somebody else in place so I don't have to technically worry about it.
Yeah. I'm not sure how I'd find that because I guess I've come a different way. I mean, I do camera work, but I think to me that side of things is a bit of a dark art at times, especially making something look beautiful. But I'm not sure how I'd feel if I had the knowledge watching somebody else do it. I'm not sure I'd be able to keep my sticky fingers off it.
But the thing is though, it's like communication.
Mm,
That's why you get someone next to you that understands you. And one thing about being a director and then coming from a DOP is that you understand the language. You understand to tell your DP, hey, I like this part, but we're gonna do this, but can we try it like this too? You know what I mean? So it's like it's always being the creative and
mm.
making sure you're creative together. So it shouldn't be too hard because you're still in that seat. You just kind of delegated just a little bit of the work, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, I get it. I get it. And so so working on these feature films now, are you sticking to a particular budget level, or is it getting bigger and bigger each time you make one? How's that working?
Um, we try to go bigger every time. It all depends on the actual script because sometimes we have to, like, if we have like an investor or something, and or someone wants you to do a certain type of project, we kind of keep it within a certain budget. But me personally, I want to get a bigger budget every time I do something because
Mhm.
there's something that I learned in the last one that I know I need a little bit more money here to apply the
Yeah,
the new thing that I've learned,
right.
or
So
and hire
then
more people.
hire more people. Okay, so then that might be your answer to this. If you're about to make your next film, and I said, right, I can double your budget, what are you going to spend that money on primarily?
Crew.
Crew,
I'm,
more
I'm I'm
people.
probably gonna go more crew, but I'm actually gonna add maybe a name or two just to
Yeah.
spice up the to make sure we're guaranteed a return.
Yeah. Smart move. Smart move. I'd go crew, a name, and maybe better food.
Oh
Because I
yeah, you
think that
can't go
really
bad. You can't
helps.
go wrong with crafty.
I'll go
Crafty
wrong with
is
better food. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Um, and then, so talking as somebody who's a director, give me what are your tips for working with actors, for dealing with actors?
One of my biggest things that I've learned is that you're the keeper as a director. You're the keeper of the story. You're not the one telling the story in my eyes, right? So with my actors, how I approach them is I don't approach them with do it like this, you do it like that. No, what's your ideas? Let's talk, let's collaborate. I like your idea, but maybe with your idea, can you try this? So it to me it makes them more comfortable and it makes them tap into the character a little bit more, and then also ask them what is the backstory. If it's not
Mm,
written, what is the backstory? Like let's just create this character together. So it becomes more of a I'm not just the director, the boss. I'm your we're co-workers.
yeah,
Or we're just friends. Let's just talk about it. Like that's my approach to the actors is to make them feel comfortable and how do they see the character opposed to how I see the character. And
yeah.
that's just going left field of the story, then we're going to bring them back. But more or less, this I want them to be in charge of how we develop the character.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I think I've done both versions of that. And I think sometimes I have to stop myself reverting to the do it like this, do it like that, just because of time, because you're running out of
Mhm.
time and just like, I haven't got time to have that conversation with you. But it's never as satisfying and it's never as good on screen if you haven't had those conversations. And I
Right.
enjoy it so much more. The films I've made where I've got a relationship with that cast member and I've really talked stuff through, just
Hmm.
feel better than the ones where I've just shouted bit more angry or a bit, do that faster or
Yeah.
whatever. But you
But
unfortunately,
like those approaches, like more angry, sometimes people don't understand that.
mm,
So it's like you have to learn, like you said, learn the person, understand them, and find out like about them, not about the character, not about the development. Let's learn about you. And that way, as a director, you can talk to them and help them relate to that character to their life. Because there's some part of your life, it might be not be the exact same. Something you have went through can relate to most characters. You just have to find out what it is.
yeah, absolutely. So, what's your most recent movie that's come out? Which one was that?
Um, I had a I had a series come out titled Pillow Talk,
Right.
and it's actually season two because we did season one last year and we just released season two a few months ago.
Right, okay. And what have you learned? Because obviously that sort of seems like it's a new thing now where because of platforms like Tubi, streaming platforms, producers are able to create effectively a TV show and release it. How is that? I've not done that myself. What's the difference to you to doing a feature film? Do you need a lot of stamina for it? Tell me about it.
Funny thing is, season one was accidentally a series.
Right.
It was
Okay.
actually shot as a movie, but it was so much stuff, so much footage, and so much story that we were going to leave on the cutting room floor. And my wife, my partner, she was like, "Let's turn it into a 4-part series." I said, "Good idea." I said, "If it works, then we go back for a season two."
Mm.
And it worked. It worked for us. And then we went back for a season two. I would say, to answer the question, it's like, what draws you to a series is because there's more content, and it
Yeah.
keeps you can keep the viewer engaged a little bit longer, and just not to shy away from it, is more revenue.
More revenue.
You, more revenue.
Yeah. And does it, I guess that's interesting to dig into a little bit. Do you see, I don't know how you distribute, I mean, we can talk about that, but do you see a correlation between, does the first episode always make more money and then it slowly decreases, or do you see a kind of steady amount per episode?
It depends on your series. Like,
Mm,
there's been times where the first episode will do great, but you can't get people past probably the second episode. So if
mm,
you can't get them past the second episode, you're going to see the decrease. But if you have a good story or something that people is engaged to, then it's pretty much a little even across the board. But you're always going to have that one that's a little bit more, because some people just don't like what you have, and that's
mm.
okay, because you just can't please everyone, and the stories aren't for everyone. I like the movie Him. They just said that's the worst movie ever made. I didn't think it was that bad, but that's my opinion. You know what I mean? So everybody has an opinion, so it's kind of hard. But when you got a decent series, you're going to see it pretty close to even across the board.
Yeah, yeah. On him, I enjoyed it, and I'll watch anything Jordan Peele's associated with. He can't do no wrong in my eyes. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, that's interesting. And then did you change your approach at all? So I'm assuming when you did the second series, you knew it was going to be a series. So did anything change in your approach to making that?
No, it didn't. I found that the way I break it down, I still broke it down as if it was a movie. Because we're independent, so it's like we don't have the finances to say, "Hey, we're going to lock this location down for this amount of time and shoot one episode." We can't. I can't afford to do that because it's independent. So what we do is I break it down as a movie. So I go through all the scripts. We had 8 episodes, so I went through 8 scripts, and I pulled the same location from all 8 scripts, and I scheduled it out by location. So it's like we might be shooting episode 3, we might be shooting scenes from episode 1. It all depends. You know what I mean? So the approach is still the same. I will approach it
Mm,
just like I did a movie until I get the bigger budget to where I can say, okay, we're going to shoot episode 1. This is what we're going to do, and then we can go back. Because sometimes it's harder for us to actually get a location again
yeah.
after we shot there. So that's why you kind of like want to milk it while you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's that reminds me. So I did a film that involved time travel,
Mhm.
which was using the same location multiple times. That completely scrambled my brain. So then how do you keep track if you're doing 8 episodes? I don't know, how long was an episode?
Each episode is roughly 35 to 45 minutes.
35, 45 minutes, and then you're returning to locations with scenes that happen later on in the story. How do
Mhm.
you keep track of all of that, and how do you retain story throughout that?
That's the hard part for me.
Mm,
I mean, well, not hard, the tricky part. So my producer, which is my wife, she creates our Bible, and everything is color coded in this Bible, so she keeps it all organized. So my thing is get you a good producer, get you a good line producer, good producer to help you keep this this ball rolling. Because if you don't, like you said, if you have 8 episodes, you're going to get lost. And
mm,
then my preparation for the day, like, for the days is like I know where we're going with the story. So as me as a director, I know the story. So it's like when I'm sitting there talking to the actor, we take 30 minutes maybe while they're setting up the next shot. We talk about it. Like I stay engaged with the actor at all times. That way, the emotion that I try to bring through the actor, I want to make sure we're on the same page, which that's probably technically not the right way to do it because we're jumping through different emotions, but we do it in a movie. You might shoot the ending scene on the first day, and this
Mm.
character might have to be so distraught that they had to find a way to do it. So I look at it the same way. Let's just approach it like we do the movie.
Yeah. Okay. And then what was I going to say? So when you're looking at, say, we look at a feature budget, what percentage of that are you spending on a series, or is it kind of the same as you would spend on a feature?
No, the budget's a little bit more. For one, sometimes the crew and the cast they want more because they're considering
Mhm.
it's a series, and it's a lot more work. It's more
Mhm.
taxing on some people, on some actors, and the crew. Like typically, right now as an independent filmmaker, I'm doing 10 to 12 days on a feature. Which I know it's not a lot of time, but that's all we can afford. So, but when we do a series, we're 17 to 25 days. So you got to think we got to probably put days off in there and things like that. So it's more taxing really on the crew more than anybody because we're like 20 days in, so yeah,
That's still not a lot of time.
it's it's
That's
it's really
horrific amount of time.
that's no, it's really not a lot. Like, and people don't understand that. That's what I tell people all the time. They say, "What is the difference between independent filmmaking and the studio filmmaking?" I said they have more time, more money to pay for more time.
Mm.
That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Yeah. And then, so then for someone who's maybe about to go into their first feature film or going to try and shoot a series, how do you shoot it in such a short space of time? What are your tips for kind of saving time, keeping things moving, keeping it on schedule?
Um, Make sure you get good actors because the less you have to work with an actor trying to remember lines, the more time you can spend shooting a scene. I mean, the right way, like you can get more creative with the shots. Good organization, good scheduling, and you have to have a crew that's ready to work, ready to move. It's never no time to really sit down. I mean, of course, we run into our hiccups. That's with any production. I don't care if it's big or small. You're gonna find those issues that you got to be quick on your feet to learn to resolve. But my biggest thing will be get a good producer and have good scheduling.
Yeah. Yeah, amen to that. My wife is also my producer, so I know that how that dynamic works and can
Yes.
work really well. And I know it's funny, you do see a lot of husband, wife, partner duos working in film because you have got somebody who's ultimately their main goal is kind of to protect each other from all these time constraints and all these kind of
Hmm.
difficult things that pop up. Um, so on the last series you made, what was the toughest day on that? What was the toughest moment, do you think?
The toughest day on this, we had like it was a action scene. It was like a shootout, and we had this park scheduled, and then the police shut us down.
Oh,
So, and this is one of I want to say the biggest scene of the series because it
mm,
involved a lot of people, a lot of movement, a lot. It was supposed to be like a 2 day thing because it was action. So you got to, you know, get the details in the shots and things of that nature. Yeah, the police shut us down because they didn't want blank firing weapons. And I told them, well, we didn't have to use the blank firing weapons. I have, the green gas blowback. They just didn't want the weapons on the premises at all, which I understood. But I did call before. I did ask for permission. We did everything we were supposed to do. We
yeah.
got the okay, and then the day of, they shut us down. So that's one of those things where I say you got to learn how to pivot quick. So I went back to the script, me and the writer, because the writer actually is always on set with me too, the one that wrote that.
Mm.
So um we talked about it. I said, look, we just gonna dumb it down. It ain't gotta be so many people, this and third. We kind of rewrote the scene and we made it happen in a smaller location.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I've had days like that. And it hasn't happened often, but I have been in a situation before where something that big has happened, and it always usually seems to be around location. It's
Mhm.
never, I mean, occasionally it's been an actor's, dropped out or something's happened with a prop. But yeah, the main reasons for stress for me is to do with the location. It's to do with one getting cancelled, one wanting you to finish early or not delivering on the promise that you originally set up, and it's the only thing really that can stop everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it's an actor, change what you're shooting. If it's a prop, fake it, fix it, change the shot. But a location is painful when that goes wrong.
Yeah, that's I mean, you pretty much got to rewrite the story or try to
Mm,
push it back to another day, which independently pushing things back to another day is pretty much very hard because you might have an actor flown in for this amount of days and then you can't, and it's hard to shuffle, you know. So um and I hate to keep saying independently, but that's just the thing that we go through as far as, you know, budget. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like the biggest budget I probably worked with was $250,000, and that's micro beyond micro budget,
Mm.
considering what the industry looks at. You know, so it's just it gets hard because you can't afford to do the things that you really want to do and play with the toys that you want to play with. So
Yeah, definitely. And also I guess what you're saying there with the independent is there's nobody you can phone and go, "Oh, we've gone over budget. You know, we're going to need another 3 days," because you're going to effectively be talking probably to your partner who's going to go, "No,
or
we ain't got no money left."
or you go look in the mirror
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
because most of my films is budgeted. I mean, self budget. So it's like pretty much
Self-budget.
everything I do it myself. You know,
Yeah.
like I've really, I think I don't really take on investors.
Mm,
So
mm.
we kind of like it's, you know, self funded, which I'm not saying we're opposed to. It's just that if you're going to take on a budget, in my opinion, you should take on an investor. You should take on an investor that can give you more money that you can actually afford to pay.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. So then what about when the series comes out and you're
Mhm.
trying to get people to watch it? What are your tips for that? How do you get eyes on it?
That's where you keep the name. You have to have some sort of name, someone to, and then sort of name, and then your marketing. Like me, I'm the type of person that when I'm on set, I make sure. I mean, no, everybody does this, but you take the photos, you do a photo shoot, and you get BTS, and you bring people on to do the BTS for you, and it's all about jumping into the algorithm on social media. Because right now, that's the biggest platform to market is social media. And you know, if you got the budget to do billboards and the old street way, like, with the flyers and the t-shirts and stuff like that. Like I've done it all, so but the biggest thing will be social media because it has the wider reach. So you have to make sure you have a good social media campaign. No, I'm not saying go spend all the money on ads and things like that because to me, they don't work as good as people think because they're still in what like they base your algorithm on what you're spending.
Mm,
So if you're spending 10, maybe $100 a day, you're probably only reaching so many people. So, you're not going to reach the masses unless you have a big marketing budget. So figuring out your marketing niche is definitely important to get the eyes on it.
yeah.
And me, I've been fortunate enough to be a popular filmmaker. Coming from the music videos, I knew all the big artists in the city and things like that. So people recognize me and recognize my work. And over the years, I've grown another part of my fan base through social media. So it helps too. But like I said, the biggest thing is you have to have at least $5,000 for marketing. You should have at least $5,000 for marketing.
Mm,
If you have that, I think you can get some good eyes on your project.
yeah. And how are you doing distribution? Is it Film Hub or are you selling it to someone? What's your kind of setup?
No, right now, no, I'm not going through Film Hub. It's some things that I didn't agree with on that platform. And for one, it just takes too long for them. So actually, I'm through Buffalo 8 right now,
Hmm.
with Steven Love. Me and him, he brought me over there with them, and I'm pretty satisfied. But I've dealt with a few different distribution companies. I still have movies through other distribution companies, so I'm just feeling my way through. But right now, I'm very comfortable with Buffalo 8.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And the distribution companies you've worked with, have they been positive experiences or have they kind of led you to think differently about distribution or not?
No, honestly, everyone I've worked with, the biggest thing is your pay, and that's
Mm,
just with any distribution company because there's been companies that have went out of business and didn't pay people. You probably heard of them. But honestly, my biggest thing with most distribution companies is you're asking for a certain percentage and you don't market me. That's my biggest thing, and which is I understand, but at the same time, it's like, if I'm giving you 20%, I feel like you can take at least 2% of what I'm giving you, or figure out a way to take or us come together with a percentage to help market the film. That's just my biggest thing. Is just the marketing aspect. It's like I'm doing all the work. Only thing, and you just put me on the platform, and that's it. You just slap me up on the platform. You're on to the next one. I feel like the more money I make, the more money you make. So why not take a small percentage of whatever the budget is or whatever the percentage is, put back into the film, and this help us generate some more money. It's like, I'm not the only one making the money. We both will be at that time, so that was my only gripe with distribution companies, is the marketing.
Yeah. It can be maddening. Especially so from my experience, sometimes you give your film over to a distributor, like you say, there's zilch on marketing at all, nothing, but there's still marketing fees wrapped up in the sales agent. And you don't even know when the film's coming out, let alone whether they're going to promote it. It's really frustrating. And it's really maddening because like you say, they can make some money. I don't know why they wouldn't want to promote it, or at least help you to promote it.
Exactly. If you got to think, if we make millions, we make millions together. Like you get, like we make $3-4 million, you're getting 10-20%, whatever the percentage is. You're getting a good percent. You're not getting a small percentage of the film. You're getting a decent amount, because most investors only want 5% of their return, and then they're done. They don't want to live the life of the film. You're actually taking on the life of the film through your contract, whatever. Most people that put it on through a distribution company, they're not taking it down. So you pretty much are going to generate money through this film for the life of the film. So it's like, why not? Like you said, why not? You're making money too. It's not like it's free.